Rubber Beauties, Rubber Beauties, they're true to themselves. Rubber Beauties, Rubber Beauties, they're true. It's true, it's true, it's true. Rubber Beauties, Rubber Beauties, they're true to themselves.
We were just talking before we welcome you to this edition of Rubber Beauties, which is the Beauties after podcast, that maybe we'll get Lester to just voice some of the chapters from here on in. Could you do? Do you have a good Can you do your Barry White voice?
Yes, I can, James. Very well.
Yeah. Can you? Let's see if we can do this. Do this in podcasting. Let's see if you can read.
Oh, it's book club time.
Do you have my book? Oh, there you go. All right. So let's turn.
Well,
what's a chapter that we haven't done yet?
Awkward.
Puffy. Did I give you one yet, Puff?
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Turn to page.
We haven't done
ODOG
I got the
yet.
online version.
Turn to page 51.
51. Page
Page
51.
51.
P1, yep, right here.
This is only an audio podcast. Hey, Stoff, we're not on YouTube with Rubber Beauties, right?
I could put.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to let everyone know that Stoff had his book copy handy, and Lester had his copy handy, and Puffy did not have his copy, and that's why we're making fun of him. Okay, so this is Lester audition for Rubber Beauties. Take one. Go ahead.
In a Washington hotel hallway, two Hartford
You can't even say
Whaler
hotel.
veterans.
You could get three words. Hotel. You made the first syllable out. Hotel. Okay, start.
Hey, it's a regional dialect. Give them a break.
Okay. In a Washington hotel hallway, two Hartford Whaler veterans are engaged in an intense conversation. Paul Randheim and Nelson Emerson are trying to figure out how a trade the night before should affect who rooms with whom on the road.
Okay, don't give that away anymore. That was pretty good. It's pretty good. Don't give any. We don't want to give any more because you might actually read this chapter. That's the ODOG chapter.
I was getting ready to say.
I was going to say.
Kevin
Deneen. Aren't we holding off on that chapter as long as possible?
Yeah, we're going to make it last just to frustrate ODOG. That was a pretty good audition.
One is pretty good.
Well, hold
Puffy,
on.
I'll
audition next week.
Do you want to? Yeah, you audition next week. We'll do auditions now every week. Puffy, you better get a copy of the book.
I don't really read that well.
Do you guys remember that in school when they used to call on you? Like, did you have that where you all read the same book for and you? Yeah. I remember trying to count which paragraph would be mine so I could practice it ahead of time.
That's right. I'm gonna find the chapter for Puffy's audition that has apocalyptic in it.
I actually remember there. I can't remember what the book was called, but we were all reading this book. I think it was grade 10 English, and someone read ahead, and there was I guess there was a scene in the book about a guy masturbating. And I remember the terror in that class when we were all reading it out loud because everyone was counting up to the moment where that part would happen. I just remember sitting there sweating, and luckily it wasn't me.
Puffy slowly put his hands beneath his sweatpants.
And that was the character's name.
He turned off the Zoom camera for a mere moment, but they could still hear his voice. The slow groans mounted.
I forgot to hit mute.
Oh, you didn't forget.
I have to talk myself up sometimes.
What if someone's listening to Rubber Beauties for the first time? What if someone just found Beauties and now they're listening to Rubber Beauties for the first time? Of course we can. If you're listening to Rubber Beauties for the first time, this is the cast of the Rubber Boots podcast, which you can also listen to. And this is the kind of important content you usually get on the Rubber Boots podcast. But here on Rubber Beauties, our aim is to talk about the chapter that you just read, which in this case was about Hailey Wickenheiser. A real simple story, a great story. First of all, Hailey, a legend for many reasons. Obviously, what she's done with hockey in this country, but what she's done in the fight for COVID-19, going back to train to be a doctor. We love Hailey. She's done amazing things. Hailey was one of the first people I approached for the book. I knew I wanted her in the book. And this was the story she had about pouring rubbing alcohol in her eyes, which is, if when they make Beauties into a movie, which is inevitable, that'll be a very funny scene, right? When Hailey grabs the bottle of water to spray it over her face, and it's rubbing alcohol, and that would be unbelievably painful. But in the movie, we'll have to dramatize it, and so Hailey will have to go blind and get the double pirate, and then she'll come back and win two more gold medals. Yeah,
she scores the overtime goal in that game.
And that movie produced by the Razzle Brothers.
The Razzle Brothers.
Scored
once again, too many rubber boots jokes on Rubber Beauties.
That's true.
We can't do too many inside jokes.
That's true.
I think most people that listen to Rubber Beauties also listen to Rubber Boots. I think
there's zero people. There's zero people.
Do you think there's zero people that listen to Rubber Beauties and listen to Rubber Boots?
Zero.
Okay, if you are a fan of the Beauties podcast and you listen to the Rubber Beauties podcast, but you've never listened to the Rubber Boots podcast, please either just write me on Twitter. You probably don't follow Rubber Boots, so don't write them on Twitter. Just write me on Twitter and say that this is the case, because we need to know. Because we have a hugely loyal following to both podcasts, and I wasn't sure how much of an overlap there was. Fascinating anyway. But Tessa Bonhomme, the reason I included her in the chapter, A, it was going to be too short with Hailey's story, and B, I wanted to portray just how intense Hailey is, because that was the one thing Tessa told me, the most intense player she's ever played with, in the sense that she gets so in the zone, you basically can't communicate with her the entire game. On the bench, in the dressing room, the most zoned in, focused player that she's ever played with, which is probably makes some sense in the success that she had, right?
Oh, for sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's hard to imagine Tessa getting really focused and intense.
Well, no, because we only know her that way, but she was pretty great.
Oh no, she's great. Obviously, but it's just funny how it's just like you could see that her and Hailey Wickenheiser would probably not be at the exact same side of the spectrum when it came to game intensity.
I think Hailey was a bit of a loner, on that team. I'm reading between the lines here. Nobody said that, but not a loner as in didn't fit it. Everybody loves Hailey, but you know what I mean?
She was probably better
not
off
the one who. Yeah, better off on her own.
Yeah.
Like Tess told the story, I can't remember if it made it to the book or not, about losing Hailey the night after the gold medal win. Hailey calling her and saying, "Where are you guys? I'm out on the street somewhere." Hailey was lost somewhere in Vancouver right after they'd won the gold medal. So
wow.
But what a champ is Hailey Wickenheiser. And we're glad we had her in the book.
I had the good fortune to say that I've actually skated with Tessa. We had a thing called the Business of Hockey Cup tournament that TSM was involved with, and actually we won it that year. But it's a tournament that features teams from the Sabres. These are people that work in the offices and stuff like that. So myself and former VP of programming Sean Redmond ran our team. But
Tessa was on the team.
Tessa played one year, so I'm happy to say that I've skated with an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah. Did she dominate? Was she good?
You know what she said? She said to me at the time, at that point, she hadn't skated in quite some time, and she said she's kind of done with it. And I said to her, you basically just front end loaded your career, your hockey career, with all your, at the beginning of your life, and now you're a broadcaster, which is great. But really, I was impressed, because she skates really well and handles the puck really well, and just hearing her, I never expected that she would be intimidated by somebody like Hailey. I think she was telling the story about, Hailey just at the front of the bus, and I wasn't sorry. She had taken a penalty, and snot coming from Hailey's nose.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the bus. Yeah. Nothing to do with the bus.
So it was just like, but no, they were.
Did you even read the book?
I heard this. No.
To Lester's point, I do think Tessa mentions that they never even sat on the bus together, and she never had an opportunity to introduce herself to Wick prior to that.
All right.
That was
Lester knows the book better than I do, apparently.
Well, I listened to what Stoff said. But anyway, look, just to say, the level of intensity, it's not unexpected. But hear that story of someone like Tessa, who I respect highly, being intimidated was pretty surprising.
I think that'd be common for a lot of those young girls coming up in hockey, because that was the one person you looked up to, and especially that she was so intense and so into the game. You didn't want to interrupt her, and you didn't want her to think you're less than that, I guess, as well. So I could see that being kind of intimidating. Now, have you guys ever, like, I guess rubbing alcohol in the eye would really hurt. I remember I got hot sauce in one of my eyes once.
Oh yeah,
and that stung like hell, and I don't think I could have went out and played a third period. So, you guys ever had anything like that happen?
For me, it was only when I mixed up Tiger Bomb and Tiger Bone.
That is a lot of pain.
I once took. I didn't know what wasabi was once, and I was on a movie set, and they're shooting behind me, and I didn't realize I never had wasabi, so I took a bunch of wasabi. And I'm like, but I couldn't say anything because they were shooting a live scene behind me.
Was this Chicago?
No. It's not Chicago. Was it? I never got paid. It was a movie called an independent movie called Rats, and I never got paid actually.
But they had sushi on the set?
Probably the damn Razzo brothers.
They did.
Pretty good independent film.
The Razzo brothers do like to cut people from their films.
I've never seen it. I don't
jokes.
even know if I made the scene or not.
More inside jokes from Rubber Boots podcast. The level of women's hockey right now, they're so good. And I may have told this a couple of seasons ago on the pod, but so Gracie at her school, they needed players to try out for her school because they were short of players. Gracie had never played hockey before, never skated. She'd skated a handful of times in her life. She was a soccer player. And so she tried out. And there was actually 5 girls on the team that I think couldn't skate. And this you sometimes get this in high school hockey, this big differential in talent. But one of the girls on the team is on the national team. And she could only make it out for about 3 games. But the game she made it out for, like, so you got one of the top 20 players in the country and then 5 girls that can't skate on the same team. And this girl was great because she would pass and she could skate circles around, every opponent.
Yeah.
But she was trying to set everybody up. And Gracie thought it was the greatest thing ever. Awesome. So Gracie goes around and say, yeah, when that girl's on TV, she's like, yeah, I played with her. We played together. She set me up a couple of times.
I was her winger.
On that topic of women's hockey, the National Women's Hockey League will have their Final Four not this weekend, but next weekend. So Gold Bar League, I'm thinking.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, we should do a prop on that for sure. 100%. Okay. Great job, guys. Great job on the Rubber Beauties, brought to you by betsafe.net.
betsafe.net.
Make sure you check out the Rubber Boots podcast if there's any one person that never has before. All right. Fill out your bracket.
Yeah.
Maybe we get like $75 for this one.
Yes. Whose audition is next? Is it Puffy or Stoff auditioning next? Stoff will audition next?
Yeah, I'll do next.
Puffy's got to learn to read.
I mean, at this rate, I might actually have to voice one of the future chapters just to get it.
We're getting a little low. We'll see you next week or soon on the Rubber Beauties podcast.
Rubber Beauties, the truth. They're true to themselves. Rubber Beauties, the truth. It's true. Rubber Beauties, the truth. They're true to themselves.